Hey guys, it's Mike Taylor. I'm here for you guys in ARC 316. I did get a request from someone in the class that we do a little Sketchup tutorial again, just to do with a live version of some shadow studies. And these can be really helpful. It's a little bit, I don't want to say advanced, but because you just kind of hit a button and it turns on. But I do want to show you what that looks like. And definitely in the city of Toronto, they will ask you to do some studies of what those how shadows will impact your site, your building. There's something called the angular plane, which if you haven't heard of, you will. The angular plane is basically a line that's drawn from a sidewalk or a street and cut back, and it starts to inform areas of our buildings in the city. It's really more of a zoning thing. However, for us, what I wanted to do is take a quick 5-10 minute video and just go through a couple things we can do to get at that question of how do I get a shadow study, interactive shadow study, working inside of SketchUp. So why don't we just go ahead? I've already got SketchUp fired up here, and it's got to switch out of the stream. And now, so I've already opened up just a kind of standard template, our default template here. And what you can see here is I've got Teddy. I'm just going to delete Teddy here. Bye, Teddy. And one thing I wanted to start with is this is very much to do with personal preference, but there is something called the styles of SketchUp. And I just want to make sure that we all know how to kind of modify these. I don't have anything in this model currently, but I wanted just to share this briefly. This is something that I like to do, is just kind of for my own sanity. SketchUp really likes to keep things colorful and fun. I hate that. So what we can do is we pull open the Styles tab. You should see, I think in models, the first one you see. Okay, I've already inserted a couple. However, this is the kind of standard default setting. You can see these fun little, we've got, we could see these really deep profiles here. So anything that's kind of outlined as I rotate around, or orbit, I should say, we can see everything is really deep, a bold profile here. So what we could do is we can actually modify some of that. We can also modify the colors, the sky and the ground, right? So one thing I like to do is set it just black and white as a hidden line, just while we're doing things at the very beginning, just to keep things simple. And these are really the visual styles. So if we just drop down styles here, and then you'll see this little drop down menu. And we've got, right now I've got a couple that I've already input, but don't worry about that. Drop down. And for me, I like to do, I think it's going to be, let's just see it. Let's see what we got. Color sets. Nope. Default styles. Yeah, it's default styles. So default styles. And then just over here on the right, the fifth one is hidden line. So hidden line is something that we do in Revit sometimes. It's something that it was very popular. It was very popular when we didn't have rendering technology that we have today. Very easy to do. And now we just hit a button and ta-da. So now we've got this hidden line rendering style. And all I've done is just click. You can click back and forth between them. You can see I've lost the edge profiles here. So if that's something you like to use, it's totally fine. You can edit this and turn those profiles back on. We can give them a bit of, give them a bit of depth there, or we can turn them off and so on. So, you want to mess around with some of this stuff, you're welcome to. For now, I'm just going to keep it like this, keep it in a hidden line. It's going to really trim down also the amount of processing power that your computer is trying to do if you happen to have a lot of materials in things inside your model. Okay, so the question was, how do I get an interactive sun study going? So it's all good. If you watched the first video, I'd love to hear some feedback from us. I'm going to make some groups here, move this just to the center. And I'm just going to do a kind of fake version of a little streetscape, just so you guys can get an idea of what would make this shadow study helpful. And I'm just doing my little control click using my move tool. So I'll do that again real quick. Spacebar, remember, is our select tool. If we select the building, hit M for move. Control is tap control, and you'll get a little copy here. One thing I wanted to show us real quick is if I click and give myself a reference, click again, And if I wanted to do, say, 10 of those, I type 10 and 10x. Boom. Nice and quick. I'm going to do the same thing, and it's going to populate a little streetscape for us. So think of this as like a little residential street somewhere in Toronto, hanging out. There's two things we have to do in the case of your project. I don't know where it's located. So for your D&D class or wherever you happen to be working, one good thing to do is make sure that inside of our preferences, we have the correct geographic location set up. So I think... should have checked this before. I think it's inside of our preferences here. So I'm going to jump to preferences. Oh, my mistake. It's actually in model info. Cancel. It's going to be inside of model info here. So you're going to go to window, model info, click that. And now we've got location. This is for my actual file. Where's my geolocation? So geolocation, it's up to you. You can either set a physical location by adding a location, but for us, let's just set a manual location here. We'll do, Canada, Ontario. Oh, it should update. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay, let's add a location instead. And I think it'll let us pick. Oh, give me a break. Okay, so give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to have to go to the extension manager and update this. So add location. Fair enough. Okay. Update. Right, of course. Why would it not open? Let's see what we got. Okay, fair enough. I will restart SketchUp. Apologies, guys. We will just have to redo this. So, SketchUp again. Oh, oops. Okay, I will close this. SketchUp. Just remembering when we do start up SketchUp, fire up our architectural millimeters model and get rid of Teddy. Inside of our styles down here, we've got, and it's going to jump to my default styles. Jump to hidden line, it's the fifth one over here. And hopefully it's going to let me choose my model info here now, geolocation, add location. And here we go. So I'm not sure why that happened. So you can literally choose any location on the planet, which is pretty sweet. So for us, I'm just going to pick Toronto. So if I type Toronto in here, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and you can see I've got a little sweet little map here, right? And I can modify exactly where, my site needs to be, for instance. So I'm going to set the geolocation there. And the reason this is important is because when we do go to do our shadow study, we want to make sure that we've got the right sun angle for our project. So I can see here that I've got this extra little line here showing me, I think this is going to be where north is. This is a new feature. So anyhow, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do a couple different buildings here. So let's just do a quick couple of, call this 3-story building or so. Make a group. Copy it 10 times. Right? Do the same thing. Jump across the street. Nice little set of duplexes or what have you. And so now we've got our nice little hidden line document. And I'm going to guess this is north here where we look at our geolocation. So let's just double check that. But when we do turn on our shadows, you should be able to see this. So inside of our default tray here, we've got a bunch of stuff open. If you just click those, they'll close up. And here we've got shadows. So shadows is really what we're after here. You can modify a couple of these things, but I think for now, what we're going to do is let's just set it to noon, and we'll set it to, you can see here, we've got time of day. So between whenever the sun rises and whenever the sun sets. So obviously we only have shadows during the day. And then the second one here is January, February, March, April, all the way to December. And again, of course, as we all know, it's now, January in Toronto. It's very dark, very limited amount of daylight during the day. The days are getting longer though, right? So, and all this being said, we've got just the ability to change the time of day and the time of year. So you can literally set each of these, if I wanted to set it to the summer solstice, I've got June 21st in here. It's the longest day of the year. The sun is at its highest azimuth, right? So we're going to see a little less shadow. And then, of course, in December, we're going to see a lot greater shadow. So December 21st, we'll see a lot greater shadow. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this on so you guys can see what it looks like. So ta-da. So hit that little that little gem. We can see, luckily, that this is going to be this yellow line, orange line is going to be our north arrow. And so what we've got now is just a couple different boxes. You can see we've got this shadow happening from the south onto the north. We can adjust things like how dark do we want the opacity here. So we can change the darkness here. We can also change how light we want the shadows to be. So this is more on the, I think this is going to be more on some other kind of shadow faces. So let's just keep going here. First step. So what happens? So we can see here the shadows are going to be on the north side of the building. The sun is coming from the south. And if I change the time of day, we will see, okay, so it's earlier in the morning. Why don't I do it this way so you can see everything here? So earlier in the morning, we've got the shadows kind of rising. This is the opposite. Something isn't making, oh, right, because this is a summertime. So this can get a little confusing. We are in Toronto here, so this can get a little confusing. Usually you would expect it just to be on the south side of the building here, but you can see a little bit of that weirdness where we've got a little bit of shadow coming from the north here. This will probably be a little bit more evident in the, yeah, here we go. So as we move into December here, we can see, early in the morning. So in December, this is in September. We've got early in the morning and coming across the sky and all the way to the setting in the west, right? So sun starts in the east. Oh, this is the same problem. What is happening? Yeah, we're good. Oh my goodness, my brain, I'm just having a little bit of a meltdown here. So, sorry, it's rising in the east and setting in the west. Man, it's been a minute since I've done this, so thank you everybody for the patience here. We've got it's rising in the east and setting in the west. So we can imagine that on the east side as it's coming over us, right? We've got the east side over here and the west side over here, making sure my screen shows the same thing that I'm looking at. And we've got, so the east side, we've got the east side coming up and over, right at noon, we're going to see the kind of least amount of shadow, right, being cast. And then as we move into the evening here, we've got that western sun coming on pretty strong here. It's that western sun casting a long, long shadow. So this is really just about the interactive part of it. Turn it off, turn it on. We're all good. And then if I just move again, I can leave the time. So say I wanted to leave the time at noon here, I can just reduce this. Whoops. I can reduce this to a noon time. Oh, come on. I was going to set it to noon. And what do we got? 12-ish. And if I just change the time of year, starting in January here, we can see quite a bit of shadow. We're in the wintertime. And as I move towards the middle of the year, right, I've got less shadow. And then again, moving towards December, our shadow gets longer again. It's pretty straightforward, right? Off, on. That's really the kind of basics of getting this interactive sun study done. One thing that you might want to do is what we can do is we actually set up some scenes to say throughout the year, what is the time that we would like to set our sun study to. And you can do a little fun, we'll call it fun, a little animation just to kind of get our, really, they call them scenes. It's basically a way for SketchUp to display a amount of information for you on a set day, a time. You can set layers. You can do all this fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and let's set a couple of our solstice and our equinoxes. So we'll just start with March 21st. So let's do March 21st, 2025. And we'll do it at noon. It's typically what the city wants to see. I can't remember if it's the 20th or the 21st. Typically, they want to see the equinoxes and the solstices. So we're going to do the autumnal equinox, right? And the spring equinox. And then we'll do the summer solstice and the winter solstice. So it's typically, we've got typically every year, we've got March 21st. So let's just set that over here. We can hit this little plus sign. March 21st at noon. I'm going to hit that plus. And then I'm going to change it to, okay, let's do, instead of March, we're going to do June. April, May, June 21st at noon. We'll do the same thing. And I'm going to set another scene. So scene 1, you can see scene 2 is now populated. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit. If you hover over the box here, we can see we've got a little bit of extra space here. I'm going to keep going here, June 21st. And now let's do September 21st. Right, a little bit more. We've got the autumnal equinox here. And I hit that plus sign again. And now, if I jump to all the way to December, September, October, November, December 21st, our winter solstice, hit that plus sign. So now what will happen is if I tap, I want to come back to see, okay, what does my building look like? If I hit this one, double click the one, I'm going to see things change. So oh, I see. I've also happened to have updated the scene itself. So you see here that the camera view, I happen to be rotating around our building as I was talking here. So one thing you can do is just be mindful that when we are changing these things, that it will also change the camera view. So it's like a scene in a movie. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to update scene 2. So you can see here, scene 2 is a little bit closer, just a small amount of zoom in. So this can be really helpful for building little diagrams and this type of thing. So I'm going to double click here on scene 3, and I got to remind myself what was scene 2. So scene 2 is actually going to be the summer solstice. So I'm just going to jump back here. I'm going to set this back to summer solstice, June 21st, and then I'm going to update this scene. So if I right click update, it'll say, okay, what would you like to update? I'm going to update everything. So, and let's see if I can. This is going to be March. I just want to make sure that the camera angle is all the same. March 21st, and I'm going to update this scene as well. Update everything. And now if I double click, I should see, you can see my view has not changed. It's just the shadows. So just the shadows have been updated. I thought this would be helpful for you guys just to see. You can, of course, set these to any view. If I wanted to rotate around, it's going to, I could do this again with those scenes, set up those scenes to make sure everything is shaken out properly. Yeah. So that's shadows. We got full interactivity here, changing all these fun things back and forth. Make sure you've got your north, where your north orientation is. That can be an important part of this exercise. One thing I'm going to show you now is what to do if you've already got a map or something like that. So I'm going to spend just 2 minutes or so. For us, if you are curious about, you've got a project in the city of Toronto, I did want to show us this, is that you can actually find there's some recent-ish maps, 3D maps of Toronto, and that City of Toronto hosts for us. And what we can do is actually, you come over here to the City of Toronto website, and we're looking for the open.toronto.ca/dataset/3D massing. So we've got all of this massing hanging out, the west, south, north, and east of Toronto. If you can see my screen, hopefully it's big enough. And what I've done is I've just clicked on south here. And what that does is whoops, wrong one. It opens up this kind of subsequent map to say, okay, the city has all of this stuff. It's got all this stuff hanging out. And if I'm going to zoom in here, and what I can do is just say I want to grab the CN Tower here. I can click this, and you can either get the AutoCAD file or you can get the Sketchup file, which is great for us because we're using Sketchup, right? So click that little button there. We're gonna have a download start. I've already downloaded it, but I'll just open it up for us here. So you can see here, 50G South is what I'm looking for. So 50G South. And if I double click this, I should see a nice little model of downtown Toronto. So this can be really helpful if you are working on projects that are downtown, because look at this. We've got a wonderful little lakeshore element with our CN Tower. I figured I'd pick something that everybody could recognize immediately. I think this is the Chorus Center. Look at that, right? So the reason I'm saying this is that maybe you want to see a little interactive shadow map of an area that you are currently working on, right? So right now you can see the city has done such a great job at models the curbs, the massing, so the massing of the building. So if you just want to get the site, right, we've got that. The caveat on this is that it's rough. It's not perfect. It's rough. The GIS data is available if you want to get in there and modify some things, but SketchUp file it's pretty good considering it's free, right? So this is all free. I haven't paid for any of this. The parcels, so if I turn off massings again, the parcels of land, you can also see these kind of like rough property lines, right? Parks, you turn off parks. Reference tiles. So why don't I just touch on that super quick here? Those reference tiles, if you are thinking like, I need to grab some other pieces. So maybe you want to have a full map of Toronto, right? You can start to stitch together these maps. They do get pretty heavy. So if you have a powerhouse computer at home, laptops might be able to hack it as you start to get these bigger and bigger models. Even though it's SketchUp, even though it's really light, it can get a little heavy on the model. So quite a bit of geometry here. It's got to render all these faces. But first things first is what I'd like to do is just show you super quick here. Let's make sure we've got our identity data for the location set up. So let's just jump to Window, Model Info. This model is accurately geolocated. So luckily, City of Toronto is so smart. They've already done all this work for us. So we don't have to do anything. We're just going to download the model, open it up, and let's turn on some shadows. So what do I want to see? Maybe I want to see what the summer solstice looks like in Toronto at high noon. So let's just grab noon here. Click our little turn on shadows button. So fun, right? So we've got a rough idea of how shadows are being cast onto the street at the pedestrian level inside of the City of Toronto. Whoops. Wonderful. Right. So let's say I'm going to come back out, just scroll out a little bit. Bear with me. Hopefully nobody gets seasick. If I wanted to see it in, December, same thing. I'm just going to modify actually let's do September 21st. And you can see here the shadows. You can see how that shadow tone has changed a little bit longer shadows. It's we're right at noon here. So we're directly south. If I change, throughout the day here, right? East to west. So we're starting in the east, eastern sun coming up, setting in the west in the evening, this type of thing. So great, right? So oftentimes what will happen is during the site plan control or site plan approval process in the City of Toronto, they will ask for some sun studies. So this is actually a super helpful tool for you guys just to check out, hang out with. Sometimes it can be helpful just to turn on our styles here. Make sure we're just using it's going to use my, it's disappeared from this one. Okay, it's default styles. Use my kind of hidden line here. Hidden line will help a little bit with the kind of the rendering, right? So the software is unlike Twinmotion, which is giving us a realistic expectation of what the buildings are going to look like. This is just more of a cheap and cheerful, quick and dirty version of what a rendering might look like. The goal here is really to show what some of these solar studies, sun studies are, where our shadows are being cast. So super quick. I thought this project was really helpful for us just to see an iteration of this. A second version, I just happened to download another little piece here with a couple more buildings, just so you guys could see an iteration that has a couple more buildings in it. Bear with us here. So it's just going to load up. I'm going to close this other one and not save it. It's going to load up here and quite a few more buildings. So this is just, you can see we're right between Spadina, Front, and Queen. These are kind of the streets that are framing our plot of land here. So quite a few buildings, right? So a little bit more dense. If we're going to jump down to, let's call it, jump down to street level. If you've seen some of these buildings before, I'm going to jump down here. Let's jump down to the street level. And you can see here we've got a lot of geometry hanging out. And I'm just going to move our tags up here. Same thing. I'm going to just modify where's my styles? I'm going to put my styles back to just hidden line for us for now. just helps. I don't want to crash anybody's computer. So default styles, grab here, hidden line, a little bit lighter on the side of rendering. So just making sure that we got Roy Thompson Hall down here, making sure we render some of this stuff in a light way. These models are not perfect, but they definitely help us with some of these massing challenges. You can see quite a, balconies. This building over here, if you've seen this building before. So City of Toronto, to their credit, has done a lot of work just getting these up to snuff. If I turn on the shadows again, it is going to be pretty slow here, so bear with me here. It's using a lot of information to kind of convey where our shadows are sitting. So June 21st, nice little diagram showing where those shadows are going to be hitting. So I'm going to jump back to noon here. Let's do the same thing. Whoops. Noon. So I should say that with the shadows on, it's going to be even slower. So as a caveat here, what you could do is just turn off shadows, set the time of day that you want your shadows to be set. That'll help free up some of this. Hit that shadows tool again, turn it on, and now we can start to see some of these elements. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up a couple scenes here. Let's just do this. You can see again, really, really slow. So depending on the power of your computer, I've got a pretty reasonable GPU in here, but I know that some of us might be on laptops and they just don't always have the same juice. This is a 4070 Super Ti. So whatever you've got, if you've got a 4090 at home, shouldn't be a problem. If you got a 4080 at home, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're working on a laptop with a little less juice, it will certainly be a little slower. So what I want to do, I'll set up just a separate, let's set up one for September. And I'm going to do another scene here. Whoops. Oh, I see what I did. Okay. So I'm going to set up a second scene here. And unfortunately, I didn't set my September 21st. Got to make sure I update it now. So I'm going to right click. Whoop, it's going to set. I'm going to right click, hit update scene, update everything. And now if I just kind of float between these two things, you could see my computer is, even though it's a little pretty juicy here, it's still pretty slow to render these updates. So if I double click here, it should, it's actually what we should be seeing is a kind of slow conveyance of shadows happening over the map. But instead the computer's having a little bit of a challenge rendering all these shadows. That's cool. So usually what will happen, back to our kind of requirement from the City of Toronto, usually what they'll ask for is a couple different ways to do this, is they want to see a little shadow study. And I'm just going to turn on one thing here. If you remember from our camera, I'm going to show us a little plan view of this. So I'm going to turn on camera, parallel projection, and I'm also going to set the camera to top. So what we can do here is now I am oriented directly to a kind of up down, with north. You can see north is pretty much straight up here. So, and I'm just going to update this scene. Perfect. And okay, that's updated. And now I'm also going to update our what did I want to do? This is September, and then I'm going to update this to be June. So June 21st. Grab that, and I'm going to update this. Again, it's going to keep our camera view live, so we're just going to make sure we update that. And now I've got two different kind of views of what those shadows look like at different times of the year across our site. So this is quite, you can see the computer's just thinking a little bit here. So double click on scene 2 and you should see in September. So remember, we've got September 21st here, but, and then our June 21st differences at noon. Pretty fun, pretty great. If we wanted to do things like just super quick here, if we want to do things like make sure we turn off our, say you don't like to see the reference tiles here, we could just click that reference tile, turn it off. Going to think for a second. Going to go ahead and update this. Update, and come down here, double click on our scene 2. You can do the same thing here and just turn off our reference tile. Thinking. right click, update scene. So again, if you are seeing your computer struggle a little bit, just turn off the shadows and then turn them on when you're ready to do that. So double click, and now we've got two different scenes showing what those shadows look like different times of the year. Typically the city's going to ask you for 4 times throughout the year. If not, they might also do, I'm gonna have to remember, it's different times throughout the day to see what those shadows being cast look like throughout the daytime. One thing we can do is, if you really want to get fancy, we can do a little animation export. I'm going to see how long this takes. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. So if you're done, if that was enough for you, you can just sign off. But animation here, export. And I am going to grab a video. It's going to let me choose. So I got 720. Let's just do a 480 for now. See if we can keep it real quick. I don't need to loop it. I'll hit OK. This is really, it's going to export based on the scenes that we've set. So it's just going to do scene 1 to scene 2 here. Let's hit that little export here. We'll export it. Let's see how long this is actually going to take to do before I get too carried away. And if not, we'll save it for another time. But oh, look at that. Lightning speed. So no problems there. Let's jump to our desktop. And where did our file go? So 50G north. This should be it. Oh, okay. So so one thing we might want to do is extend the number of frames here. So I'm going to redo that. Let's do a little export here. Export animation, and let's give ourselves a little bit more resolution. I was worried that we're going to crash our computer here. So let's do a 1080. And we will do a full 30 frames a second, anti-aliasing, that's good. And let's try this again. So let's just go ahead and we'll do export here. It's going to take probably 4 times as long, which shouldn't be a big deal since we saw how quick that last one was. But you can do these little animations. So if you're really interested in creating these little animations, we got 47 frames. It needs to render each one of those frames for our little animation. Just under 10 seconds here. So you guys might see more than that, but let's crack that open again. And let's see what we got. So a little cheesy, right? So what we might want to do is add in, what do we see here? We've got this slowly going from frame to frame. Maybe what I want to do is I'll double click here and I'll do a couple more frames. So let's do couple more frames. I'm going to add in shadows for December. Whoops. December 21st. And I'm going to add that one. And then I'll do January 21st. It's thinking. And let's do January 21st. What did I say? March 21st, excuse me. March 21st as our 4th here. So grab that little plus sign. We should have our 4th scene. Come on. Okay, perfect. File, export. We'll grab a little animation here. There are certainly better ways to do this. This is just one version if you're really interested in creating a little diagram for a video here. I'm going to actually loop this, see if this helps us a little bit. Always prompt. See what that does. Export. See if we've got any additional information here. No. Okay, so it's probably going to take around 30 seconds here, so I'll just chat with you guys while we're waiting for it. There's no way it's going to take 2 minutes. Okay, maybe 1 minute. But, I'm happy. So I got this note from somebody in our 316 class to say, I'd love to see a little, sun study. I love that. So if you guys are like, there's an assignment due, or there's something in SketchUp, or there's something in Revit that you want to see, I'm happy to make these little short videos for us as a reference. It's not only going to help you, it'll help later. And I'm going to get better at doing these videos as well in the process. So I'm not a streamer by trade, but now we're going to start that ship. And hopefully you guys can learn something. You get something out of this. I am helping to enrich the experience of your Humber lives. Double click that again. Let's see what we got. So pretty rough and tumble, right, guys? So you can see that the software is really struggling to give us this animation. So I wonder, I'm going to try one thing here. I wonder if we kind of change it to an AXO, if the software will maybe be a little bit kinder to itself. I'm going to update this. All I'm doing right now is just updating our little shadows here. Let's see if, gonna keep, whoops, careful because you might crash your computer. Try and, okay, come up. We got scene 3 here. We're gonna be doing December, December 21st. It's gonna update it. And then I'm going to update, what's that next one? September 21st for the equinox autumnal equinox. We will jump to September 21st. And I'll update this. Come on. Right click. Come on, right click. Come on. Oh, thank you, Revit. Or SketchUp. No, right click, update. What are you doing? It's freaking out just a little bit right now. This file is very large. Scene 7. No. Oh, I see. It's freaking out. Okay, I gotta delete these ones. So I'm just gonna delete 5, 6, and 7 here. I'm gonna delete these. Toast. I just want my. I just want scenes 1, 2, 3, and 4. SketchUp, please chill out. So this was December. I need to set this one to September 21st. I'm gonna right click, update. That's why it was freaking out there. Grab scene 1 here, and I'm going to change this to our June 21st starting. Just got to make sure I did this right here. June 21st, and then we'll just update that last scene here. Come on. Update. Just going to double check my dates here, make sure we're all good. We've got June. Okay, still freaking out. June. Come on. Oh, June again. June and June again. So this should actually be March. March 21st. Let's update this. Update everything. March. June. March. Oh, I messed this up. Okay. March. Okay, let's change this back to June here. I'm just going to update this. So March, June 21st. I'm going to update. This one should be September, but I bet you it's still June. So let's just make sure we're doing that. Come on, SketchUp, don't freak out. September 21st. Right click, update scene. And then the last one will just hopefully is still December, but my goodness, what a mess this has become. Double click here. And let's see what we got. So this is now March. Perfect. Okay, what did I want it to be? I want it to be December. December 21st. Right click, update scene. Okay. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to try and do that little animation just from an axonometric perspective. So let's see if some of the rendering here is a little bit kinder to us. So let's see what we got. So I'm going to go up here. Let's grab file, and we will export our little animation again. And it's going to grab this one and options here. Make sure we're all good. 30 frames a second. That looks good. Export. Just give us another minute here, and then I'll let you guys go. Or if you're already gone, that's cool too. But again, somebody from 316 said, I'd like to see this. If there are other things inside of D&D that you guys want to see more about, if it's SketchUp, if it's Revit, those are probably the two ones that I'd like to focus on. You can, of course, ask any questions you want about any software, and I can do my best to get us some responses. We've got about 40 seconds here left. TikTok. See what we get. So I would encourage us to. There's also other softwares that will do this. I don't want to say in a nicer way, but SketchUp is, again, that quick and dirty. You need to get a diagram done. You got to get something like this, like a little sun study done. Excuse me. Let's double click this and see if maybe this is a little bit kinder. Yeah, so a little bit better, right? So if I just make this big, we've got, there's a pause. Now I see what's going on. So it's not continuous, right? So that's what the trap is here. I forgot this was part of Revit SketchUp here, is that there's a pause. So you'll see it stops at each of our little scenes. Last thing I'm going to do is we should see there are going to be some show details here. Aha. Okay, that all looks good. Now, I remember there's a way to do this. No. Try this one more time. Animation options, loop. I remember there being some advanced options in here. Cancel. Window, default trace scenes. No, this is it. This is. Anyhow, so those scenes, there is a way to kind of make it a little bit more continuous. I can't remember exactly how to make that happen. I thought it was just going to be super simple. So, yeah, so we've got that little animation. Maybe I'll just leave it there. I feel like that was enough for us just to get started, even just on the interactivity part. But this is really where we got to, right? So if you want to see a little, quick little animation of what your building is going to kind of look like, in the context of the building itself, it can be fun to see what those shadows are looking like across our site. So anyhow, I hope that was helpful. I'll post this video, and then love to hear your feedback. It would be good to get some feedback from you guys, and we'll see you guys soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.